Hope you all are safe and fine. Today we are going to start with the lesson 8 of science, that is getting to know plants. So first we'll have a chapter overview. What are we going to study in this chapter? First thing are the herbs, shrubs and the trees. Then plant systems. Then roots, their function and modifications. Stem, their function and modification. Leaf, function and modifications. Flowers and fruits. And this flowers and fruits will also include the process of pollination. Okay. So these are the chapters which we are going to study in this. These are the topics which we are going to study. So let us start. First thing we are going to see what are the herbs, shrubs, trees, or we can say what are the different kinds of plants or different categories of plants. First we have the herbs. Plants with green and tender stems are called herbs. They are usually short and may not have many branches. They are also used for food flavoring, medicine or perfume. Next we have the shrubs. Some plants have the stem branching out near the base. The stem is hard but not very thick. Such plants are called shrubs. An area of cultivated shrub in a park or a garden is known as a shrubbery. Third category are the trees. Some plants are very tall and have hard and thick brown stem. The stems have branches in the upper part, much above the ground. Such plants are called trees. They tend to be long-lived, some reaching several years or 1,000 years of old. Okay. Now, except this herbs, shrubs and trees, we have another category of climbers and creepers. Okay. Now, what are these climbers and creepers? Plants that take support on neighboring structures and climb up are called the climbers. Plants with weak stem that cannot stand upright and spread on the ground are called the creepers. So, these are the another category of the plants, that is the climbers and the creepers. So how many kinds of plants do we have? We have the herbs, we have the shrubs, then we have the trees, then we have the climbers and we have the creepers. Now, next we have the plant systems. Now, when we talk about a plant system consists of two things, the root system and the shoot system. Now, see, what happens is that always a plant will have a root and a shoot. First, we will see the definitions of what are roots, stems and leaves. Then we will see their respective functions. Okay. So, first thing are the roots. The roots help in holding the plant firmly in the soil. They are said to anchor the plant to the soil. Next, the stem. The stem helps the water and minerals to go to the leaves and other plant parts attached to the stem through narrow tubes inside them. Then we have the leaves. A leaf is an organ of a plant. The part of a leaf by which it is attached to the stem is called petiole. The broad green part of the leaf is called the lamina. The lines on the leaf are called veins. And the thick vein in the middle is called the midrib. The design made by the veins in a leaf is called leaf venation. So these are the three important parts of a plant, that are the roots, stems and the leaves. Now we are going to study about these in a bit of detail. So first we will come to the roots. In this, first we will see the types of roots. Actually, there are two types of roots. One is the tap root and one is the fibrous root. In a plant with a tap root system, the tap root is the largest, most central and most dominant root from which other roots sprout laterally. That means there is one root in the middle and small roots arise from that one single middle root. Another type of root are the fibrous roots. A fibrous root system is usually formed by thin, moderately branching roots growing from the stem. That means there is no middle root. All the roots are hairy structures arising from the stem only. There is no main root in the middle. Okay. Next we have is the functions of the roots. Now what all things a root does. So the different functions of roots are: roots help absorb water and transport mineral from the soil. Roots also help to support a plant. Then roots also help, or root anchors a plant to the ground. Root stores food as well and absorb water and dissolved nutrients from the soil. So these are the important functions of a root. Now we will see the root modifications. A root modification means that whenever, because of some use, okay, a root can change its structure a bit. Okay, so two important modifications of root are: roots are modified to store food. For example, in radish, carrot, turnip, they are all the roots which we are eating. Okay, and the roots are modified to give extra support. Like in a banyan tree, we can see the prop roots which are helping in to give the support to the plant or to the tree. Okay, so these are the functions of the root. Now next we come to the stem. So in the stem, first of all, we are going to see the important functions of a stem. So what are the important functions of a stem? Stem supports leaves and branches. Stems transport water and solutes between roots and leaves. Stems in some plants are photosynthetic. Stems may store materials necessary for life, example water, starch and sugar. In some plants, stems have become adapted for specialized functions. So these are the important functions of the stem. Now we are going to see the modifications in a stem. Just like the root, we have the modifications in a stem also. Now why are these modifications needed? Again, for some specialized functions. So what are these modifications? First is for protection. In some plants, stem is modified as thorns and prickles to protect them from grazing animals. Example, bougainvillea and rose plant. Then second one is for support. Some plants with weak stems have slender coiled outgrowth called tendrils. They help to coil around a support. For example, a passion flower. Some plants have climbing stems such as with twine around for a support. For example, the wild yarn. Third is for storage of food. In some plants, the lower branches grow horizontally and swell up for storage. For example, potato for storing starch. Some plants have fleshy scales for the underground stem. For example, the onion. Some plants have thick stem which grows horizontally below the soil. Example, the ginger. So all this potato, onion and ginger which we eat, they are all examples of the stems. Okay. Now, next we have about the leaves. Now, before we go to the functions and the structures of the leaves, we should know what is a leaf venation. Okay. Now, leaf venation, there are actually two types of venations in a leaf. They are parallel venation and reticulate venation. In the leaves of grass, the veins are parallel to one another. This is known as parallel venation. See, we can see in the diagram also, the veins are parallel to each other. And in the reticulate venation, if the design is net-like on both the sides of the midrib, the venation is known as the reticulate venation. So these are the two important types of venations, that is the parallel venation and the reticulate venation. Now we'll see the functions of the leaf. So two main functions we are going to study, that is photosynthesis and transpiration. Okay. The first one is photosynthesis. Leaves prepare their own food in the presence of sunlight and a green colored substance present in them. For this, they use water and carbon dioxide from air. This process is called photosynthesis. Oxygen is given out in this process. The food prepared by leaves ultimately gets stored in different parts of plant as starch. Okay, that means the preparation of food by the leaves is known as the photosynthesis. Next is transpiration. Water comes out of leaves in the form of vapor by a process called transpiration. Plants release a lot of water into the air through this process. So these are the two important ways or two important functions of the leaves, that is photosynthesis and transpiration. Next we have the leaf modifications. Leaves are modified to perform functions other than photosynthesis. That is, first one is support, that is in the form of tendrils, and second is protection, that is in the form of spines. So the leaf can be modified in the form of tendrils for the plant to get the support, and the leaf can be modified into the spines for the protection of the plant. So these are the three important topics which we have seen, that is the roots, their functions, stems and the leaves. Now next topic which we have is the flowers and the fruits. So first thing, when we study about the flowers and the fruits, actually we should know what is a flower. Okay, so a flower is the reproductive structure found in the plants. The prominent flower parts of the open flower are the petals. The small leaf-like structures are called the sepals. So there are two important things, that is the petals and the sepals. Next we will have the parts of a flower. So the two parts of a flower are stamen and pistil. The stamen is the pollen producing reproductive organ of the flower, and pistil is the ovule producing part of a flower, which is known as a pistil. Okay. In details, if we see the parts of a flower, we have the petal. Okay. Then we have the stamens. That is, the stamen will contain two parts. You can see in the diagram C. The stamen contains two parts, anther and the filament, sepal, then style, stigma, pollen tube, ovary and ovule. These all the five, these are the parts of the female reproductive parts. Okay. Then below we have the receptacle and the stem. So these are the important plants or the flower parts which we can see. Now we'll see them in the detail. First we have the parts of the stamen. Now in the stamen and pistil, stamen are the male parts, pistil are the female parts. So the stamen contains two important parts. Anther, the part of the stamen where pollen is produced. Okay. Pollen grains are the male reproductive cells. So anther is the part of the stamen where pollen is produced, and filament, the filament is a stalk that connects to the anther. Parts of the pistil, first is style. It is a long, slender stalk that connects the stigma and the ovary. Stigma. It is a sticky platform at the top of the style where pollen is deposited. Ovary, the enlarged basal portion of the pistil where ovules are produced. So these are the important parts of a flower. Now when we have all these important parts of a flower, next topic which we have is about the pollination. Okay. So the parts of the flower are clear. Both the parts are present in one flower. Okay. Each flower will contain the male part also and the female part also. So next we have the topic of pollination. Now pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower. Pollen grains are immobile. They cannot reach the stigma by themselves. An external agent is required for this. It can be wind, water, animal, gravity or growth contact. So the pollination is again of two types. One is self-pollination and one is cross-pollination. Self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from an anther to a stigma of the same plant. Cross-pollination, transfer of pollen from the anther to the stigma of a different plant of the same species. So these are the two types of pollinations, self-pollination and cross-pollination. And after the pollination, what happens is that the ovary will swell up and change into a fruit, and the ovules, they change into the seeds. Okay. So always after the pollination, the fruit is prepared. Okay, so this is all about this chapter. What all things have been seen in this chapter are, first thing we have seen about the herbs, shrubs, trees, climbers and creepers. Then we have seen the roots, types of roots, their functions and then modifications. Then stems, their functions and modification. Leaf, functions and modifications. Then we have seen the structure of the flower. We have seen about the pollination, and we have seen about the preparation of the fruit after the pollination. Okay, so these are the topics which have been covered. The question answers and the worksheet are given in the descriptive box. Kindly complete the work. Next chapter we will be starting in the next video. Till then, stay home and stay safe. Okay, thank you.